Assalamu alaikum. My name is Abdul Samad, but you can call me Brother John. Today I'd like to share with you a reply to an email I received from one of my coaching clients. With his permission, I'm going to read it to you because I think that a lot of people can benefit from the answer I gave him. Here it is. Your question about how much rigor is needed in order to continue growing spiritually is a very important one and a very subtle one. What you are describing when you mention the intensity of devotion of the Sahaba and other righteous people in our history, their long nights, their fasting, their deep immersion in the Quran is true. But it is essential to remember who these people were and the conditions in which they lived. They were the Sahaba. They lived in the presence of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They had the greatest sheikh of all times among them, with all the light, barakah, and divine manifestations that flowed through his presence. Their hearts were directly nourished by him. Anyone who had access to such a source of light would be deeply inspired and strengthened. We know this even today in a much smaller way. I personally know people whose lives were transformed simply by meeting great awliya, by their presence, their gaze, the light they carried. I've seen this with my own teacher as well. When he returns from visiting his sheikh, he is visibly different. He himself says it plainly. When you fill your tank with that light, you can function at a different level for a while, but eventually it runs out, and you must return to your ordinary capacity. That kind of sustained spiritual environment is not our daily reality today. These people exist, but they are rare, and most of us have to travel far to meet them, if we meet them at all. It is also important to remember that the Sahaba themselves were not given everything all at once. Islam was revealed to them progressively. This is something we often forget. They were trained gradually, step by step, while being supported by the best of humanity. Today, many people present the entire package of Islam as something we should practice perfectly and immediately. And then we wonder why we feel discouraged. On top of that, we live in an age of distraction that is unprecedented in human history. Practicing devotion today requires far more effort than it did even 100 years ago. Our environments rarely support us. We are highly influenced by what surrounds us, by the people we live among. When one is surrounded by believers striving together, devotion becomes easier. When one is isolated among people indifferent or even hostile to faith, every step requires more sincerity, more effort, more inner strength. So the effort required of us today is not the same as the effort required of them. Just as the value of money changes across centuries, the same outward act does not carry the same inner cost. The tests are different, and Allah knows this. It is for this reason that we are told that in later times, holding on to one's religion would feel like holding a burning coal in one's hand. And it is reported that a time would come when someone practicing a small portion of the religion would receive a reward greater than those before them practicing far more because of the weight of the circumstances. This does not mean lowering standards out of laziness. It means being truthful about reality. We must learn to be gentler with ourselves. Doing what we can do sincerely today may carry immense weight with Allah. We cannot do what we cannot do, and Allah does not burden a soul beyond its capacity. You asked how you know when to push yourself and when your nafs is simply seeking comfort. This is a real concern, but there is another, more subtle danger. Sometimes it is not the nafs, but shaitan whispering something that sounds noble. You should do more, you should be perfect, you should push harder. Many sincere people fall into this trap. They attempt to do more than their capacity allows. They exhaust themselves. Then they fall short. Then comes disappointment, then discouragement, and eventually withdrawal. A heavy, discouraged heart cannot receive light. Our struggle must be a joyful struggle. We need to be happy servants of Allah. A light heart engages in effort without burning out, just as children play endlessly because they love the game. Devotion becomes sustainable when it is rooted in love instead of pressure. Islam is a path of balance, the middle way. The Prophet ﷺ himself embodied balance in every sense. Even his physical description reflects this. Balance is not something you reach once and keep forever. It requires constant adjustment. This is where self-observation and self-knowledge come in. You learn your limits, you learn when to respect them and when to gently stretch them. This is a skill, and it is deeply personal. There is no formula that applies to everyone. Your question is not one that demands a rigid answer. It invites reflection, honesty, and patience with oneself. And perhaps most of all, trust that Allah sees not only what you do, but what it costs you to do it. May your path remain light, sincere, and alive with joy, with affection and prayer. So now you see why I wanted to read that to you. I think this is something we all need to remember. Assalamu alaikum.